Hello, I'm Jereomy Lopez, and this is why I think you're stupid. I actually don't think you're stupid, but the government sure does. Politics in America have become nothing better than a sporting event. Except for in this league, there's only two teams. The fans are diehard, and they rarely switch sides. There's no middle ground. You're labeled as either a conservative or a Republican. And herein lies the problem. The world is not black and white. The world is a whole spectrum of colors. So no matter who wins the election, the people that really win the election are the 1%, or corporations. They think you're stupid, and you are. Every other election, either a Democrat or a Republican comes out on top. Half of the people are left proud, while the other half are left peeling the losing candidate's bumper sticker from their car, if they're not too lazy. And the 1% wins again, because they have successfully divided our country in half. I used to call myself a conservative, but I just can't do that anymore. I'm an American. You're an American. We're all American. We're all in this boat together. We need to realize that we should set our differences aside and strive for a more unified country. And this has been said by every political candidate since I can remember. But I'm not running for office. It's not until after the election that you realize they're just another corporate stooge like the rest, lying to us. I used to have the viewpoint that the Republican Party was the dad and the Democratic Party was the mom. When you needed a strict leader to come in and straighten out the finances and punch the bad guy in the face, it was time to elect a Republican. When Big Brother was picking on Little Brother at home, per se, certain groups of people needed representation, such as minorities or the gay and lesbian transsexual community or women, or there needed to be expansion of certain government programs such as healthcare. Then it was time for a Democrat to win the election. And I would think that this balancing act would benefit America, but this was false. In reality, the two parties were just taking cheap shots at us. And they did this by allowing us to believe that we actually had a voice. While they were slowly destroying our country through globalization of the economy and expansion of government, the Republican Party was not the father figure. They were the profiteers for the 1%. And the liberal mother figure was not the compassionate caregiver. She was just expanding her control over you. And she was doing this through government expansion and gun control. Is there a solution to this problem? I believe there is. One, there can be an expansion of the third party. For one, the media has already destroyed the third party by calling them the third party. They're not the first party, they're not the second party, they're the third party. And who wants to vote for the third party? I like to call them the middle party. I think that's a more fitting name because most of the time the middle party actually has ideas from the left and the right, and they're a nice mix of both. Or two, we can get rid of corporate funding in political campaigns. Here, I'll focus on the latter. I have a saying, separation of state and church/business. Imagine a political system no longer corrupted by corporate persuasion, where the rights of the people supersede power and profit. I'm not saying we need to eliminate political action committees, because you can't eliminate political action committees because the common man would have no voice on Capitol Hill or on a national level. But what can be done is to only have political action committees be funded by nonprofit organizations or unions. This would actually expand unions again, which I think would be a good thing for America. I think there's problems with unions in the beginning because there's lots of corruption within them, but there can be ways around that. So basically what I'm saying is zero corporate funding. If per se an environmental group is worried about pollution in the Gulf of Mexico, they can feel free to gather and raise funds for a candidate they feel would represent their interests best. while on the other hand, the union workers could voluntarily donate funds to a candidate they think would represent their industry best because their livelihoods are at stake here. But donations would not be mandatory, and union leaders should be elected in short time intervals, and they should not re-elect the same leaders, and this would keep corruption to a minimum. And having donations be voluntary and having this be strictly enforced through high monetary penalties and even criminal penalties, such as throwing somebody in jail for 10 to 30 days for trying to bully somebody into funding a candidate when they didn't want to. This will send a message, and it will stop it'll stop the large corporations from stepping on the rights of their employees again. And the strong enforcement of this rule will also ensure that corporations don't just purposely raise the wages of their employees with the intent of forcing them to fund the candidate that they think would be best for their industry. And this type of corporation-free system, the separation of state and church/business, gives the power back into the people's hands. And I think this could also raise wages for the middle class. If the corporations can no longer spend huge amounts of money funding political candidates, they could use that money to either reinvest in their business, which would create more jobs, or possibly increase the wages of their current employees now, in hopes that they would fund the candidate that would be best for their industry. And this, as I said before, it gives the power back to the middle class by giving them the choice to either fund the interest of the business or to fund some outside interests. Maybe the company person is an avid outdoorsman and is more worried about the environment and the future of the environment than the company, making more profit by not raising their environmental standards. And I believe this could also encourages corporations to stay local instead of globalizing. The money that they gain, the huge profits gained through cheap labor overseas, can no longer be used to funnel to Congress to keep taxes and tariffs low. The people can push their congressmen to raise taxes on companies that are trying to globalize or that have globalized. If a certain percent of your company is overseas, you get taxed more or you have higher tariffs. It would basically make the corporations account to the people. But we can only put a fire under their asses if we wake the fuck up. And how do we do that? One, you can vote for that third or that middle party candidate, as I like to say. Go tell your friend, go tell your neighbor, go tell your brother. Say, hey, I think it's about time that we stop getting manipulated by the rich corporations and the 1%. They're spending millions and millions of dollars on these advertising campaigns, and it's just to persuade you to vote for a candidate that they've already bought. So, or two, I say, go out and purchase a gun. They don't like that. The Second Amendment is there for a reason. It's to protect you from the government's control. It's not the other way around. I'm not saying everybody needs to go buy a gun. Some people maybe shouldn't have guns. And if you're a first-time gun owner, take a gun safety course. Get a gun safe if you have children. But it's your right to own a gun, and it's there for a reason. In closing, it's not about getting rid of the 1%. They are always going to be around. Hey, they're probably much smarter than us and better at running large corporations and businesses than we'll ever be. But what this is about, it's about not getting bullied and not getting pushed around. Because the drafters of the Constitution, they wanted better for the common man. And we deserve it. If you have any comments of why this wouldn't work, except for that corporations don't want this to happen, or any other comments, leave them below. Thank you.